In 1987, Caterpillar did something no one expected. They built a tractor that would change farming forever. But just 16 years later, they walked away from it completely, taking an $80 million loss in the process. This is the story of the Challenger tractor, a machine so innovative that farmers lined up to buy it, so well-engineered that competitors scrambled to copy it, and so successful that it should have made Caterpillar billions. Instead, it became one of the most expensive mistakes in agricultural history. But here's the twist. The tractors weren't the problem. The technology worked perfectly. What failed was something far more fundamental, something that should serve as a warning to any company trying to enter a new market. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating business decisions in farm equipment history. Let's find out what really happened. The revolution. To understand why Caterpillar's exit was so shocking, we need to go back to where it all began. The year was Ronald Reagan was president. The farm crisis of the early 80s had devastated rural America. Farmers were desperate for anything that could give them an edge. Better efficiency, lower costs, higher yields. Traditional wheeled tractors had a problem that every farmer knew too well. They got stuck. In wet fields, heavy clay soils, or hilly terrain, those big wheels would spin, dig themselves into ruts, and compact the soil beneath them into something resembling concrete. Soil compaction wasn't just annoying, it was expensive. Compacted soil reduces water infiltration, limits root growth, and can cut crop yields by 15 to 20%. For a farmer working on thin margins, that's the difference between profit and loss. Caterpillar's engineers had an idea. What if instead of wheels, you put rubber tracks on a tractor? Not the steel tracks from bulldozers, those would tear up fields, but specially designed rubber belts with grouser bars that could distribute weight over a much larger surface area. The concept wasn't entirely new. Tracked vehicles had existed for decades in military and construction applications, but no one had successfully scaled the technology for row crop agriculture at this level. When the Challenger 65 rolled out in 1987, it was genuinely revolutionary. 360 horsepower. Rubber tracks that were 25 inches wide and over 10 feet long on each side. Ground pressure of just 5 to 7 pounds per square inch, less than half of what conventional tractors exerted. Think about what that means. This massive machine, weighing over 20,000 pounds, distributed its weight so efficiently that it left barely a footprint. Meanwhile, a human being walking across the same field exerted more pressure per square inch than this tractor. Farmers who tested it couldn't believe what they were seeing. The golden years. The Challenger didn't just meet expectations, it exceeded them in ways that surprised even Caterpillar. Traction was phenomenal. In conditions where wheeled tractors would slip and spin, losing 30% of their power to wheel slippage, the Challenger just kept pulling. Farmers reported being able to work in fields that would have been impossible with conventional equipment. The applications seemed endless. Deep tillage? No problem. Pulling heavy planters through sticky spring soils? Easy. Operating on hillsides where wheeled tractors struggled for grip? The Challenger handled it. And then there was fuel efficiency. Because the tracks didn't slip like wheels, more of the engine's power went directly into pulling implements. Farmers reported fuel savings of 15 to 20% compared to their wheeled tractors. At scale across thousands of acres, those savings added up fast. Caterpillar knew they had a winner. They expanded the line aggressively. The Challenger 65 was followed by the 70, then the 75, the 85, the 95. They developed smaller models for different farm sizes. By the late 90s, the Challenger line included models ranging from 200 to 500 horsepower. Sales climbed year after year. Competitors took notice. Other manufacturers started developing their own tracked tractors, Case IH with their quad track, John Deere with their 9000T series. But Caterpillar had the first mover advantage and the engineering expertise that came from decades of building tracked vehicles. From the outside, everything looked perfect. The technology worked. Customers loved the product. The market was growing. So what went wrong? The invisible problems. While Caterpillar was busy building incredible tractors, they overlooked something crucial, something that would ultimately doom the entire program. The dealer network. Let me paint you a picture of how farm equipment sales actually work. In small-town America, places with populations of 5,000, maybe 10,000 people, the farm equipment dealer isn't just a store. It's an institution. The John Deere dealer in a town like Greenville, Iowa, or McCook, Nebraska, isn't located on the edge of town near the highway. It's right there on Main Street, often in the same building where farmers' grandfathers bought their first tractors 50 years ago. These dealers don't just sell equipment. They host farmer appreciation dinners. They sponsor the local high school football team. The owner's kids go to school with farmers' kids. When a tractor breaks down during harvest, the dealer's service truck is there within hours because the dealer lives 15 minutes away, not in a city 2 hours away. This is how John Deere built an empire. This is how Case IH and New Holland maintained their foothold. Deep roots in rural communities, relationships built over generations. Now let's look at Caterpillar's dealer network. Caterpillar dealers were located in cities: Chicago, Denver, Phoenix, places where construction companies needed excavators, bulldozers, and road graders. These dealers were experts in construction equipment, with service bays designed for heavy machinery, parts inventories focused on construction applications, and sales teams trained to work with contractors and developers. When Caterpillar tried to sell agricultural tractors through this network, the mismatch was obvious. A farmer in rural Kansas who needed parts for his Challenger had to drive 2 hours to the nearest Cat dealer in Wichita. When something broke during planting season, the wait for a service call could be days, not hours. Meanwhile, his neighbor's John Deere was serviced by a dealer 12 miles down the road. The breaking point. For over a decade, Caterpillar tried to make it work. They encouraged their construction dealers to learn agricultural equipment. They offered training programs. They adjusted territories. But the fundamental problem remained. And then, in 2001, everything got worse. The dot-com bubble burst. The economy slid into recession. For Caterpillar, this created a crisis. Their construction equipment business, their bread and butter, faced declining sales as construction projects were canceled or delayed across the country. In boardrooms at Caterpillar's headquarters in Peoria, Illinois, executives faced an uncomfortable reality. They could see exactly how much the agricultural division was costing them, and they could see exactly how much it would cost to fix the problem. Building a proper agricultural dealer network from scratch. Over $100 million, maybe more. That meant either buying existing dealerships in rural areas, building new ones, or somehow convincing established agricultural dealers to drop their current brands and pick up Caterpillar. None of these options were cheap or easy. CEO Glenn Barton and his team had to make a choice. They could invest that $100+ million into fixing agricultural distribution, money that would take years to pay back during a recession when every dollar counted. Or they could focus those resources on their construction equipment business, where they already had dominant market share and an established dealer network. When you put it that way, the decision almost makes itself. The exit. On August 15, 2002, Caterpillar made an announcement that shocked the agricultural world. They were selling the entire Challenger agricultural tractor line to AGCO Corporation. Not just the product line, the whole thing. Patents, designs, manufacturing facilities, inventory, the Challenger brand name, everything. AGCO, the company behind brands like Massey Ferguson and Fendt, paid $100 million for the entire operation. For Caterpillar, after accounting for various write-downs and exit costs, it amounted to an $80 million loss. Farmers who had invested in Challenger tractors were stunned. Dealers who had tried to build up the agricultural side of their businesses felt betrayed. Industry analysts scrambled to understand what had happened. How could a product line that was technologically superior, that customers loved, that was growing every year, just be abandoned? Former CEO Glenn Barton would later explain the decision in remarkably candid terms. It wasn't the tractors. The technology was sound. The market was real. But Caterpillar simply couldn't compete with the dealer networks of John Deere, Case IH, and New Holland. "We make the best construction equipment in the world," Barton said. "But in agriculture, having the best product isn't enough if you can't service it properly." Lessons and legacy. Here's the irony that makes this story so fascinating. The Challenger brand thrived after Caterpillar let it go. Agrico already had an extensive agricultural dealer network. They already had relationships with rural dealers who understood farming. They already had the infrastructure that Caterpillar struggled to build. Today, 20 years later, Challenger tractors are still in production and more popular than ever. Agrico has expanded the line, refined the technology, and built on Caterpillar's original innovation. The rubber-tracked tractor concept that Cat pioneered is now standard across the industry. Conclusion: the Challenger tractor wasn't Caterpillar's biggest mistake because it failed. It was their biggest mistake because it succeeded in every way except the one that mattered most. They built a revolutionary product. They proved the technology. They created a market. But they couldn't build the human infrastructure needed to support it, the relationships, the local presence, the community ties that form the backbone of agricultural commerce. In the end, the Challenger story reminds us that in business, as in farming, you can have the best seeds, the best equipment, and the best techniques, but without the right soil to grow in, even the best ideas struggle to take root. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into business decisions that changed industries. What other agricultural equipment stories would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments below.